I'll call the roll since the clerk is gone. Jerry Bauer, Barry Meyer, Todd Horn, Marv Nevler, Ray Shaneborn.
Here.
I'm here. Robert Hahn, Jason McMillan, Roger Petrick isn't here, Gail Stankel isn't here, and Tim Westfald is in here.
Jason McMillan, right? Who were the other two?
Marv Nevler, he's the chief of police from Park Falls, and Robert Hahn, the chief deputy from Price County.
Yes, I have it. Oh, yeah. I have the other one. Or Neffler, N-E-F-L-E-R. N-E-V-E-L-I. Wow, N-E-V-E-L-I-E-R. Yes. Nevler. Yes. Okay, got it. And you're the, I'll let you. Mark Falls.
Okay, I'll open the floor up for public comment. Is there any public comment? Is there someone online? No one online, okay. Any communications amongst the committee members? Okay, first up is a presentation, Wisconsin Chemical Test Section. Amy Eisler?
All right, a few of you already know, the ones to the right of me and to the left of me have seen me present a few times already. But I will briefly go through who I am, what our section is all about. My name is Amy Heisler, and I'm with the State Patrol Chemical Testing Section. The two across from me know who I am, since I live in Park Falls, and that's where my office is located. Yes,
We need to have that speaker on.
I was told to.
Oh, you have them on?
Do you want it on?
If there's anybody who jumps online,
Oh,
they
I
can't
see.
hear you.
They can't hear
Okay.
otherwise.
Okay.
Okay. And the chemical test section is a part of the Department of Transportation when we are in the Division of State Patrol. What the chemical test section does, it is strictly breath alcohol testing, and that composes of many different facets. There are basically three types of instrumentation that we deal with when it comes to breath alcohol testing. The first one we call an EBT, which stands for evidential breath test. And those are the instruments that, when people are arrested and suspected of operating under the influence of alcohol and law enforcement requests a sample of their breath, that is the evidence that they get through that instrument. In Price County specifically, there was one in Park Falls at the police department, and there was one here at the Price County Sheriff's Department in the jail. In addition, the other instrument that we work with is the PBT, preliminary breath test. That is the device that law enforcement carries with them most often in their squad cars. And that is something they can use roadside to check for the presence of alcohol in a person's breath. The preliminary breath test is not admissible in a motor vehicle trial. It is admissible in any other types of proceedings like underage drinking, intoxicated use of a firearm, anything other than motor vehicle. The other device we work with is the ignition interlock device. Those people who have been convicted and ordered by the court to have one in their vehicle, they just can't choose whatever one they want. Our section specifically approves certain models that can be installed in vehicles in Wisconsin. And along with that, we also approve certain models of PBTs that law enforcement can use because these devices have all been tested in Madison. So the chemical test section itself consists of 7 people like myself covering the entire state. I cover 16 counties in northern Wisconsin. I've been doing so for 18 years. And that is our webpage. If you want to click on that map.
You want the map now?
Yeah,
Just give me 2
chemical
seconds.
testing site map. It's in the blue.
Oh.
There we go.
So go community medicine.
Yeah, I cover the area in blue, and I have 6 other colleagues that cover the rest of the state. What we basically do is, yes, a lot of travel. We certify the evidential instrument that is required by law to be done every 120 days. Most of my time is spent teaching and training law enforcement. They can't just use the evidential instrument if they please. They have to be trained to do so. And once they're trained, they have to recertify every 2 years. The numbers that you see in the counties up on the screen are the number of instruments in the county. Ashland County is incorrect. It has 2. I installed an instrument at the LaPointe PD on Madeline Island last year. So it's interesting taking the ferry over in the winter, in the winter months. The last thing we do is also testify in court. If the person wants a trial and it's an evidential breath test and I am needed to be there, I will be there to testify about that. So that's basically what we do. And then in Madison, we have 2 chemists. One strictly works with the ignition interlock devices, being very busy testing those, approving those, going through that whole program. The other Madison chemist gets us ready in the field and does various other things in the laboratory. We also I have a supervisor and a chief, and there is a 2 program assistants that help us with all the paperwork. So as far as breath testing goes, again, I think some of you common sense can think the only thing breath tests will analyze is alcohol. The positive thing about breath testing, it's quick. There's no needle anxiety instead of getting a blood test. But unfortunately for breath testing, it doesn't analyze drugs. So, and with the prevalence of drug driving now today, the blood testing is needed to detect that. We do work, that is a completely separate agency that works with blood testing. That is the State Lab of Hygiene. And we work with them, we work closely with them. And one thing we are in collaboration right now with them is the oral fluid testing. I was told not to really talk about that, but oral fluid testing is basically going to be a roadside test for the presence of drugs for use by law enforcement. And right now they are working on legislation to get the word other bodily fluids included into the language and definitions. And then we will go forward in getting our administrative code changed so that we can start using oral fluid testing for law enforcement. There are some recent court cases, one that will mostly affect all fields of forensic. That includes DNA, bullets, hair, anything related to forensic field. And that is the U.S. Supreme Court case Arizona versus Smith. What that case basically talked about was the defendant's right to confront their accuser. And the accuser means the actual scientist that analyzed whatever they were analyzing, not someone else reading from their papers and their results. So for example, in the past, I was covering parts of Racine and Dane counties, and I would go to court down there for the analyst who had done certifications on the instrument in the past, but was no longer with us. I can't do that anymore. They have to find that actual analyst and bring that person in to testify. We will see how it plays out. This court case was just decided, I'm thinking the 1st of August or July. So it just occurred, and we'll go from there. The State Lab of Hygiene feels that it will affect them in that it's taking a lot of the analyst time away from the laboratory analyzing blood and getting results. But we're going to see how that plays out. As far as what I do for this county and many other counties, I teach and train law enforcement, again, as I said, on how to operate the PVTs, but then I also teach them how to check the PVTs for accuracy. I can't do that. It's just too much. So we train them and we give them the equipment to do so. Let me take that back. They buy the equipment to do so. Some equipment we can give out, but what's really great about this is we just got a grant where that was approved by BOTS, where the agencies, especially smaller agencies, were able to get free PVTs. PVTs are almost $500 a piece. They're not cheap. And the equipment to check them is almost $500. So over about 160 agencies in Wisconsin, law enforcement agencies, applied for this grant, and we did order, I think, 100 PVTs right now. We're ordering a lot. a lot more in the future, and we're going to be disseminating those along with the calibration equipment. As far as the evidential class, we work with technical colleges to conduct that class as close as we possibly can. In northern Wisconsin, we generally have one in Rice Lake and in Rhinelander. We this year are also having one in Superior, and that requires half of our staff to conduct that training, and it's 2.5 hours, 2.5 days, 19 hours. And so we facilitate that training throughout the state. The biggest issue we've had with law enforcement is they are so short-staffed, it's difficult for them to send people in their scheduling. So that's the biggest hurdle we've faced lately with that. And then another thing that I do is relating to court prep is I do meet with prosecutors and local and county prosecutors should we have a case that's going forth. We do also have a prosecutor training every year at an OWI conference we have in the fall. I believe it's the end of next month, where 4 hours before the conference, the day before, the afternoon of, prosecutors come in and we conduct 4-hour training where they actually run tests on the evidential instrument. So it's a really good training for them. Another instrument that's evidential we have is a transportable instrument. It's not just for use for the DNR, it's used for any agency in a situation where they feel they can use it. The transportable instrument is evidential and it can be used in a vehicle via cigarette lighter. The only two things we require is it must have a certain temperature and they have to remain stationary. Most often the DNR does use it at trailheads. They bring the people to their vehicle, the snowmobilers, ATVers, UTVers, to test them. Or we've had special events where the amount of people is so, there are so many people present that it's difficult for law enforcement to get to an instrument. So they'll have a trailer and they'll use the transportable right there at the event site. So that's another thing that we do. Our intoximeter locations are on the community map. They can select intoximeter and it will give you the location of all the instruments throughout the entire state. That's ideal, for the state patrol when they're out in the middle of nowhere and they want to get to the closest instrument. The last thing that we have been doing is community engagement and education initiatives. I haven't been really involved in the National Night Outs. We are starting to become involved in that, getting our face known, and I hope to do that next year in Price County, set up an instrument and do a national night out. We have been at the state fair, that kind of thing, in the county fairs. So, and we have been involved in the civilian police academies. So that, I just want to give some information about the chemical test section and what we are all about and what we do. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, we got the meeting minutes from June the 6th, 2024. Motion be in order to approve.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second? Okay, we got a motion by Bryce and a second by Marv. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Law enforcement reports, Price County Sheriff, Mr. Hahn.
So far, year to date, we had 102 crashes in Price County, 60. Those 103 pedal paired. So far, year to date, we have 49 OWIs, 46 drug-related offenses. Issues. The only other thing that I have to bring up with the committee is it came to our attention that the Township of Whitefield is approving opening section State Highway 70 traffic. That section would be section of the
State Highway 70, Brand Road, Shade Bowl Road. Familiar with that large curve right there before Muskie Jazz Bar. I can say that the sheriff's office does not agree with that. That corner we have motor vehicle accidents on the corner already. TVs traveling in there. Sharp corner. The sheriff has already expressed his concern to Whitefield on that.
Did they receive a permit?
I believe they just voted on this.
Oh, okay, yeah, because they then have to send in a permit application.
Correct.
And that was approved.
So I believe they either just voted on it or they're going to be voting on it. Again, it was brought to our attention. Sheriff's office. Want to promote KTV.
You could send a email or whatever to one of them, either Rich Hendrick or Mark Reddy. If you're not in favor of it, you may take that into consideration. I'm not sure what's involved in permitting that.
Would you have that contact?
Yes, they're in our office. Just talked to Rich this morning about something else.
If I
Rich is the engineer. Mark is like a technician that helps Rich. They do the entire access control.
and I don't know the ability for them to utilize the right of way there because it's part of it. So
Yeah.
we don't agree with it. We're very concerned about it.
And Rich will pull up, we'll look at crashes and things like that too, but he expressed concern that he probably has, there's probably a policy for permitting, to follow the policy.
Other than that, that's
Okay, thanks, Bob. Park Falls Police Department, Marv?
Yeah, I concur with Bob. I'd say it's not quite 50/50, but it's versus drug driving. For that, there's some projects going on in the city, mostly off the highway. Or in the 180th Street. A little bit of a mess. Well, that is been going pretty good.
Okay, thanks, Marv. Tim Westfall is not here. Okay, we go to the Bureau of Transportation Safety, the law enforcement liaison, Todd.
Okay.
That's clean. Forget to use my mic.
For some reason, give me 2 seconds here. It's not wanting to cooperate. I might have to go to a PowerPoint or a PDF version. Give me a second. Does not like PowerPoint. So I'm going to go to a PDF. You give me, could we skip to someone else ahead and I'll be right back? Would that be okay? Thank you. It's just a little glitch.
Okay, so 24 federal projects. Roger.
The highway commissioner at the last meeting, I think, expressed some concern. They already had to patch the bridge overlays. I don't have any answer for him right now, but I don't know where or what he had to do. So that's for this year. I'll see if I can follow up on that. I'll make a little note here. Okay, and then for 2025, we don't have to discuss this, but I will. There's 5 projects next year that are 4 on state highways. One is state involved on a county highway or road. So the first one I have on, three are on Wisconsin, on Highway 13. So one is in between Fifield and Phillips. So north of here all the way up to Fifield. That's a resurface. So that's a 3.5-inch mill and overlay. It's 12 miles, goes from County F to Walnut Street. And the next project there is downtown Phillips. That's a pavement replacement. That's almost 2 miles. And that's from County D up to County F. So it kind of ties into the project to the north. It's a separate project though. So pavement replacement means they're taking all the asphalt out. It's not a mill and overlay. They take it all down. And then they'll probably do, I would assume they're doing some curb and gutter, ramp work, things like that. I don't show any detours on them. So I would assume they're going to have to somehow, I'll have to check on that. I haven't looked at these plans that much. I would assume that the mill and overlay, they almost never detour those. So the Phillips to Fifield would be just under flagging, daily flagging or daylight flagging, open at night. The downtown Phillips, I got to check on that one. Does anybody, highway commissioner, usually a highway commissioner knows about this stuff too, but it'd be interesting to see if they're going to detour any of that. So, all right. And then there's also Highway 13 in downtown Park Falls, which City of Park Falls. That is a resurface, a 2-inch resurface from the Flambeau River Bridge in North Fork of Flambeau River to 5th Street North. So, and that's almost 2 miles also. And I'll try to get more information about these at the December meeting. Wisconsin, probably the shortest highway in the state of Wisconsin, Wisconsin 111, which they're going to do the entire 11 miles of it from US 8 north to northeast to Wisconsin 13. There's no map up there right now. That's a mill and overlay. And that was advanced to next year. So there must have been money available and they advanced it and it needs to be done. And I would just address 2 questions that came up on the Park Falls, on the downtown Park Falls, someone asked, so in Park Falls, 182 comes in from the east where everybody turns to go to Park and work at the plant, and up to that and goes east to forever to 47. But that intersection there where there's a traffic signal, I was asked if there's any upgrades to the intersection, and there are. There's going to be lighting upgrades, and they're going to do traffic signal upgrades. And part of that is they're reducing the island length by 11 feet, and they're going to move that forces them to move the traffic signal on the island. I'm assuming it's for truck turning movements from the mill, so you can get back on southbound Wisconsin 13. There's going to be flashing beacons for pedestrian crossings also. So there must be some heavy traffic, get people across. So they are doing intersection upgrades there. I don't remember who asked the question. I don't remember if it was Roger or someone else that was on the call. And then the other thing was Roger, the highway commissioner, also asked, he was concerned because the utilities work on our right of way and they are given permits to work on our right of way. And a man in our office grants those permits and they have to show them what work they're doing, what kind of traffic control. And he was wondering who enforces the traffic control. And I will send this to Roger, because I thought he'd be here today, but he would probably have to call our utility permit coordinator and just follow up if he sees an issue, if you saw an issue with traffic control, because we don't really, the liability falls on the utility, not on DOT. We're indemnified for that traffic control. And if there is a problem, I would say contact Dan. Dan can contact the utility out there or go out and visit the site. He's extremely busy doing permits, constantly reviewing permits. So it's not like he drives around looking at what the utilities are doing for traffic control. And sometimes they get a little lax. So he can always follow up on them. And if it's a really serious issue, I'm sure he can pull the permit and make them stop work until they correct the problem. But he just isn't out there. So if you see something really bad, I can send that to Roger, his contact name and everything, so people can get a hold of him. And I did look at the state statutes. There's a subchapter 893.80, which states that the claim notice that work zone traffic control is discretionary, not ministerial, with no state statutes to reference. So it doesn't sound like there's a lot of enforcement power on traffic control unless it's probably for a construction project. So that's my answer to the questions that came up, and Roger asked that question. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm done talking.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. WebEx and PowerPoint do not play nice together. My name is Todd Horn with Bureau of Transportation Safety as a law enforcement liaison. And recently we've been working on updating community maps with other capabilities and just upgrades and whatnot. And so what I wanted to do, I'll lead into that in a little bit, but what I wanted to cover is, first of all, where we sit from our last meeting, which was on June 6th. And 38 crashes, 0 fatals, 4 injuries. That's where they occurred throughout the county. Since the beginning of the year, January 1st until today's date, 101 crashes, 0 fatals, 16 injuries. And that's where they occurred. You can see on the map. So one of the functions of community maps that I really like, it's really handy if you ever go into it, and I highly recommend you do and learn it, but is the dashboard. So what I did was, if you can read this, I apologize again, it doesn't like PowerPoint, but it's I'm comparing January to August 2024, and that's the dark blue. You'll see I wrote it in dark blue, and down below it's dark blue on the left here, versus the 3-year average. So that would be 21, 22, 23, also spanning in January to August. Okay, so this is for the entire county. So it's just those few months in 24 in the dark blue versus the other months. So if you take a look, your total crashes for the county are actually trending down. They were at 78, you're at 66. Your no injury crashes are holding pretty steady. Minor injuries are down. But if you take a look here, your 65 plus drivers are spiking, and I've seen that around the state as well. Impaired, yours is down, so it's commendable. Distracted is down. Commercial motor vehicles are up. That could mean you have a project, so sometimes we don't get too excited about that. But your lane departures are down, your winter road is down, so that's good. We recently updated the county profile. So this is Price County's crash trends. On average, this is what happens in Price County every year. And again, it's on average, but you have 41 fatal and injury crashes. That's when you add them both together in 1 year's time. On average, 2 people are killed each year. 2 to 3 p.m. are the peak times for injury, for injury and fatal crashes. And July has the highest number of injury and fatal crashes. Another function of community maps is predictive analytics. And so because I looked at the dashboard and saw that your 65 plus are peaking a little bit, let's take a peek at that. So we have the fall months coming up. So I looked September to November is how I punched into predictive analytics. And the hot spots you can see in the map, those are from the last 3 years of data where you're likely, not guaranteed of course, but likely to have crashes because I flagged 65 plus drivers. So that doesn't have to do necessarily with OWI or speed. It's 65 plus drivers. That's where you will tend to most likely have the issues coming up in the next few months. Did another search under predictive analytics, and this was all year long. And these are the hot spots using the last 3 years of data. And again, 65 plus drivers were flagged. So not just the fall months, but all year round, this is where you tend to have issues with 65-year-old drivers. Plus. Then we took a peek at all year long hotspots using the 3 years of data for K, A, and B crashes. And these are no flags have been selected. So this is anyone and everyone on the roadway. So these are fatal, serious, and minor injury crashes. And that's where the hot spots are. And you'll see those black rectangles. Those are analysis areas where the computer is saying, if you're going to be working, you know, you're going to be working patrols and you're trying to, you know, cause fewer crashes or cut down on serious injury crashes. Those are areas that would be best for you to work or to concentrate on. Any questions about that?
Notice that stretch of highway that you were talking about is red.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
How much traffic is there on 70 west of Pike? So there's a traffic semi. Okay, I just wondered, I just find that 70 and 13 an odd intersection, because it doesn't look like two major highways come together. You know what I mean, you walk in, there's a house on the corner, kind of like, I don't know, the steakhouse or something, and on the grassy area, it's like, it seems like an odd. And then you got that hill going over at 70, you come from the other side, you got railroad tracks, just weird, okay.
Okay, because of the holiday, I don't really have updated fatal numbers for the state of Wisconsin, but as of August 29th, and from January 1 until August 29th in 2024, this year, we had 353 fatals. I know that's up now because we've gone later than August. We're into September. Last year, we were at 365, so we are trending down slightly from last year. I always like to fortunately, there are no fatals to report, but I always like to review a crash no matter what. So I selected a serious injury crash, and this is the crash that I selected. This would have occurred on July 17th at 5:36 a.m. on Highway 111, 1.6 miles south of Socorro Road, town of Harmony. And this involves a vehicle. You can see kind of the sketch. They went off the road. So driver said swerved to miss a deer. Vehicle entered opposite ditch. Vehicle then hit a driveway culvert with the right front of the vehicle. It appeared the vehicle rear end swung around. The vehicle hit the driveway and began to roll. Vehicle came to a rest in its top. The conditions for this crash, it was clear, dry. It was close to dawn because it was 5:36 a.m. with level and straight roadway. This is a view of Highway 111. I believe this should be northbound near fire number 5427, which is on the left side of the screen. That's where the crash actually occurred. And this would be the opposite direction, southbound, same fire number, but instead it's on the right-hand side. So the shoulders look good. I mean, I don't know how old this picture is, but just gives you an idea of what we're looking at. So unit 1 was a 03 Olds-Alero driven by a 19-year-old male. Driver's seatbelt use unknown, but there was airbag deployment. Driver was not ejected or trapped. Driver claimed to be swerving to miss a deer and entered the west ditch, struck a culvert, and overturned the vehicle. Driver of unit 1 was transported by ground EMS with serious injuries. They appeared to be normal with no tests given. Unknown if the driver was distracted. Any questions about that one? Okay, just another ad here for community maps, but there's lots of training videos available. So for law enforcement, it has to do with, completing DT 4000s and, ensuring the quality product goes out. All kinds of things about how to properly fill things out. And oftentimes someone will go, I don't know, how is that supposed to be? How is that supposed to be done in the DT 4000? This is a resource that you can look into. Also, teen driver safety. There's if you have to give a speech or a talk at a school, there's a PowerPoint in there for you. And then always legislative summary. And I don't have anything for you this time. They've been shut down for a while, but that you can always go there and find out what's new and current. I'm rather shameless, but here's community maps again. We created a new program, and that is to try to get more users to understand and know how to use community maps. And so we have what we're calling office hours, virtual office hours. So anyone can jump on the computer. There's a link there, and This will be the second Monday of each month from noon until 1 p.m. So I encourage people to put it on their calendar. And if they find that they have free time from noon until 1, you only really probably need to do it once. But if you have several deputies or officers that might be interested or that you're going to volunteer them to do this, it would be a really good move to have someone in your department or office really know the ins and outs of community maps. So I would highly recommend that. I'll send the slides out so you'll have the link with that. Last time I was here, we discussed the safe systems approach, and I told you how you're going to be hearing more about this. And here we are again. And the information that I'm about to go over really has to do with activities and theories and actions done by DOT, by highway departments in order to make the roads safer, and they're time proven. So I'll just move on to those. So we've all started to see the wider edge lines on the roadways, especially on state roads. I know I was just over to Iron County and they're putting them on their county roads. So we're going from 4 inches to 6 inches on the fog lines and the center lines. And it certainly is, it jumps out at you when you first start seeing it. But, not only Jerry brought up at the previous meeting too, that not only is it safer and they jump out at people and, it makes the lane maybe a little tighter, making you want to go a little slower, but also automated vehicles, it'll be easier for them to see those lines. Rumble strips, and I'm sure maybe you've heard of mumble strips where they're much more quiet and they just kind of make a light noise versus a really loud noise. But anyway, rumble strips, especially on center lines and fog lines, those have been instrumental in keeping vehicles in their lanes and, hopefully stopping head-on collisions. And I don't know how many times I'd respond to a crash, especially for inexperienced drivers, where they would cross over the fog line and they would hit the shoulder and then they would overcorrect abruptly and then they would go across and roll the vehicle. So hopefully this will cut down on that. Enhanced delineation for horizontal curves. You can see the chevrons on the post in the picture, letting people know not only is there a curve, but how sharp the curve is very important. And so cutting down on those crashes where people maybe are crossing over the center line or completely across the road and rolling the vehicle over, head-ons. Roadside design improvements at curves, straightening them out, flattening them, widening the roadway, getting rid of trees, anything to make the curve less daunting for drivers as they're going down the road and less likely of a crash. Roundabouts, we've all seen them and been on them. They do work, creating less serious crashes, and my understanding is they're very expensive and there's a lot that goes into them. But if you have a problem intersection, some counties, some regions of the state, they're very prevalent. You see some around here, but down to the southern part of the state, when I go to Racine, there's an area there where I go through on Highway 83, and it's just unbelievable how many roundabouts. And the reason is they've had so many crashes at those intersections. Systematic application of multiple low-cost countermeasures at stop-controlled intersection. It's fancy speak for we put up signs to warn people that there's an intersection coming up. And then you can see in the picture, they're warning, hey, we've got 2 stop signs coming up, and they've even got the warnings on both sides. So obviously there's a problem there. But intersections are, dangerous T intersections where the road ends, or just simply, partially controlled, partially uncontrolled intersections. So anything we can do to label those and warn vehicles. Road diets, reconfiguration. If you notice in the picture, they have a bike path there, or a bike lane, and then they have, the vehicles traveling. You see reconfigurations where all of a sudden you come up to an area like this road is different. I give the example, I was just driving in the city of Baraboo, a couple days ago, and on Highway 33, and that used to be a 4-lane road, and now they have a 2-lane road, and in the center are the left turn lanes, and it already looks a lot safer, and my understanding is, it's been successful. So crosswalk visibility enhancements, especially in cities, Park Falls, wherever you're at, Phillips, you want to make sure that your crosswalks are well labeled, and signage, possibly flashing lights at the really concerning intersections. And appropriate speed limits for all road users. This is a never-ending battle to determine what is the proper speed. There's been a lot of discussion about the 85 percentile, whether that should be used as strictly as it is now. And there's possible reconfiguration to that theory, but nothing concrete. But anyway, depending on, maybe you have a shopping center or a school or a new, development for housing come into the area, you might need to, adjust the speed limits. And finally, pavement friction, that's gaining a lot of popularity, where especially in the northern states of this country, Wisconsin certainly falls within that, where we're putting friction down on pavement in order to keep vehicles from spitting out ice and snow. So, any questions about that?
I was just going to make one comment. Just, I'm sure you know this, but speed limits, there's state statutes for all the speed limits. So you can't just change speed limits for any particular, you have to have a reason to be doing it. You have to follow state statutes. And if you want something more than what is allowed in the state statutes, then you have to go through a study. So I'm just wanted to clarify that. Like, I know Fifield Town Chairman Bill Felch has called me, and I've talked to him about it. So just so people know. And I was going to mention on the 6-inch pavement overlays, I think 182 already has 6-inch on there, because every year maybe it's not every year, there's a North Central Region pavement marking program project. So they go out, and probably any highways that would normally need paint, they would upgrade them then to this 6-inch. That's what we're doing now. So if you see something with new paint and you wonder why it got it, it was part of the North Central Region pavement program or marking program for this year. And so if you see one that doesn't, unless it's a new project, it may not get it until a subsequent year or something like that. So, okay,